When you think of a ghost ship, what comes to mind? Do you picture some version of a Flying Dutchman, a phantom vessel sailing on its own? Or is it something like the Waratah, a ship filled with people that simply vanished without a trace? Maybe you picture the fictional Octavius, a derelict ship filled with the skeletons of her crew, drifting aimlessly through the vast emptiness of the sea. It's hard to grasp the intense isolation and uncertainty of ocean travel in the days before wireless communication, a time when crossing the horizon meant passing into the unknown. Uncertainty is one of our greatest fears. We try to keep it at bay with stories crafted to fill in the blanks. But even our most fanciful tales fail to explain the great unknowability of the sea. Legends and superstitions arise, and none capture the imagination quite like a ghost ship. A spooky tale that explains away the unknowable. While many of these stories are just fiction, others are all too real. A select few are told time and again, like the Mary Celeste. But others are almost completely forgotten. Their mystery deepens as time erases the details. This is one of those stories, the real tale of the sailing vessel Resolven, often referred to as the Welsh Mary Celeste. From the moment European explorers arrived in present-day Newfoundland, it was immediately clear that the region's waters were rich with fish. These valuable natural resources led to a series of conflicts as the colonists vied for control. In 1713, the French and British agreed to the Treaty of Utrecht, in which France recognized Britain's claim to the island, but allowed the French to fish the waters off the western shore. This agreement, called the Treaty Shore or French Shore, was reaffirmed and maintained through the 20th century. While this agreement was largely respected, tensions and war between the French and British led to a fraught relationship in the region. Ever suspicious of their longtime rival, the British maintained several Royal Navy ships in the area to routinely patrol and keep an eye on the French fishermen in what was called the Fishery Protection Service. By the late 1800s, as relations between the two countries grew friendlier, these patrols became somewhat uneventful. On August 28, 1884, one of these patrol ships, the gunboat HMS Mallard, under the command of Lieutenant Hamilton Brown, left St. John's and sailed northwest on what was expected to be another one of these routine voyages. By the next morning, August 29th, the weather was beautiful, offering gorgeous vistas of the surrounding area. As they steamed across the mouth of Trinity Bay, 30 miles east of Catalina, a large iceberg was spotted glistening in the distance, and a fog bank hung on the horizon out to sea. The peaceful morning was broken when a lookout called out, "Sail ho!" At first, the sighting was only acknowledged by the responsible officers, but soon, as it came into better view, every man on deck stared at the mysterious ship that loomed on the horizon. It was a brig, under plain sail, but she sailed erratically, as if no one was controlling the vessel. When they grew closer, they noted some superficial damage. Her headgear was smashed, and some of the yards were broken off at the tip. Her lifeboats were missing, and no one seemed to be on deck. The men repeatedly hailed the strange ship, but they received no reply. Finally, Commander Brown ordered an officer and a small crew to board the ship and investigate. They lowered a boat and began rowing over. The mood was tense as the phantom vessel grew closer. They passed under her counter-stern and read her name and home port, Resolven, Aberystwyth, Wales. The vessel was ominously quiet as she creaked with the waves. Her derelict sails flapped in the breeze, and water gently lapped at her hull. No one called out or greeted them. or begged for help. The occasional gull shrieked overhead. Their boat bumped up against the hull, and the men cautiously boarded the vessel. As they climbed on deck, they found a perfectly seaworthy ship, with only minor superficial damage. Splitting up, they began a thorough search. They expected to find something horrible, but instead, they found a ship deserted but in near perfect order. In the captain's cabin, they found the logbook lying open on a table, and the chronometer ticking away. In the crew and passenger quarters, they found clothing and other personal effects undisturbed. Even the fire in the galley stove was still burning. It was as if everyone on board simply vanished. The last entry in the captain's logbook was made only 6 hours before and indicated nothing out of the ordinary. Baffled, the men returned to the Mallard and reported their findings. Captain Brown assigned a skeleton crew to man the derelict vessel, and they spent the next few hours cruising the area, searching for survivors in the water. But nothing was ever found. Finally, a tow line was established, and the Mallard towed the Resolven back to shore, where further investigations were carried out. Commanded by Captain John James, the Resolven was a 143-ton wooden merchant brig. She typically sailed between Wales and various Canadian ports carrying timber and cod. She left Harbour Grace on August 27, 1884, bound for Snug Harbor in Labrador, where she would pick up a load of salted cod. On this voyage, she had a crew of 8, mostly Welsh sailors, and 4 local passengers. No trace of them was ever found. The incident ignited a fury of speculation over their fate. The leading theory related back to the large iceberg spotted by the Mallard just before the derelict vessel was discovered. It was speculated that the Resolven might have collided with the iceberg in the night, and thinking the ship was more severely damaged than she actually was, she was abandoned. Captain James and his passengers and crew then drowned when their small lifeboat was swamped in the open sea. But Captain James was an experienced navigator who had sailed all over the world, and his first mate, James Matthias, was another deeply experienced sailor. It's hard to believe that the captain would order his men to abandon the ship without being absolutely certain that there was no other option. Some even believe that the Resolven could have hit the iceberg after she was abandoned. Another theory posits that the Resolven might have gotten lost in the fog and collided with the rocks off Random Island. But this raises the same question: why would the men abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel? With few answers to the mystery, the Resolven was sold and re-entered service. 3 years later, she was wrecked while sailing to Newfoundland with a load of lumber. As the years went on, the mystery of the ghost ship Resolven faded from memory. But then, in 2013, the great-grandson of Captain James received an email from a Canadian woman with family in Deer Harbor, Newfoundland. She wrote that her grandfather and his older brother found a body on a small island off the coast of Random Island, the same month and year the Resolven was found abandoned. The body supposedly wore a captain's uniform and sat at a tree facing out to sea. The discovery was never reported, and the body was buried in an unmarked grave. The woman admitted that while the story had been passed down through her family, she was never able to verify whether or not it was true. But her grandfather and his brother somehow came into some money at around the same time. Captain James was carrying a large sum of money during the voyage, which was also never found. His widow wrote numerous letters to the Admiralty, begging for any information on her missing husband and the money that should have gone to her. It never did, and she died in poverty. Whether this story is true, or even related to the ghost ship, will never be known. Like the Mary Celeste, the story of the Resolven leaves more questions than answers. As time passes, stories change, details are forgotten or embellished, and uncertainty creeps in as everything fades into the ether of time. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think happened to the passengers and crew of the Resolven? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this spooky video, leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. I'd like to give a special shout out to my supporters on Patreon and my channel members. Their Halloween costume is the best I've ever seen. Clever, spooky, and tasteful. Alright crew, that's all I've got. Until the next one, be nice to people.